Mark Wiggins. Welcome to Off the Bench. I am your host, Mark Wiggins. Today, we have a special guest. All the Grambling State University alumni, please stand up. With me today, I have the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the C.O.O, Mr. Martin Lemelle Jr. Mr. Lemelle, how are you, sir?
I'm well, Mark. It's good to connect with you and certainly excited for this conversation today to talk about the world of HBCUs.
I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy getting ready for the fall. So let's get right to it. Kind of give a little background of who you are, how you elevated to where you to your position, what you truly do as the C.O.O, Chief Operating Officer at a university, and Vice President. I guess and are you the AD too? Do you do the lunches? I mean, that's a lot. I don't know what else you got to do. How does that work, good brother?
So, you know, what I would say, Mark, is whatever we find our hands to do in service, we do it, right? And we do it with a spirit of excellence. And Grambling State University is a special place. It's a unique place for me. It's the place where everybody is somebody. And certainly that is important to me and my family. My parents having reared my brother and I in this college community, them being graduates of the institution as well as employees, long-term employees of the institution. And so my journey with Grambling really starts at birth.
Oh, wow.
And the opportunity to come back to Grambling State University in 2016 after having served in corporate America in various finance roles and planning and strategy roles from GE to IBM and Dean Foods, Industry Retail Group and the like, I got a call that was on the bond of Kappa Alpha Psi, a call that was on the shield and the spirit of Grambling State University. And that was a call to service, right? To be a part of a new administration that Rick Gallo, now 10th president of Grambling State University, was tapped to lead. And so I love the term C.O.O. It's actually what our AD calls me, David Rusty Ponton. And, you know, my role is to support the strategy and make sure the execution happens across the university. Functionally, I lead the departments ranging from finance and operations to HR and facilities, risk management and strategy and IT. And so anything that really touches the back-end experience of what fuels an institution, our team gets that job done. And we've done it very well over the last couple of years, and I'm certainly looking forward to continuing the progress at Grambling.
Nice. Now I heard the shout out to the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi. Where did you go over, good brother?
Gamma Psi Spring 04. Had the great fortune to serve as pole mark for the Gamma Psi chapter, while also serving as student body president in undergrad. And so I was busy. I've always been busy. I've always been one who's committed to service and excellence. An interesting kind of Kappa fact is that I was one of the first undergrads in several years to be featured as a solo cover of the Kappa Alpha Psi Journal.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
The late great brother Keflin Reed, Dr. Reed led the editorial for the journal for several years. And I was fortunate to be awarded the Byron K. Armstrong Award.
Okay.
As a part of that award, Brother Reed did a profile, right, on this renaissance of Gamma Psi. We've been off the yard for 10 years. And in that short time frame, right, we were able to get Southwest Regional Chapter of the Year. I had a viable packet for Grand Chapter. And again, I was fortunate to represent my chapter and also be honored with that cover on the journal. So Rick and I often joke that that's one thing I may have a leg up on him in the bio. So shout out to the brothers. We are certainly still waiting for that Rick Gallo cover to come out pretty soon. But I love the brotherhood. The bond has really been an impactful part of my life. And certainly my dad being a brother going over at Grambling Alumni. And so it's a part of who I am.
That is absolutely awesome. Congratulations on all. Let me just stop. You said Kappa, you say achievement. It is nothing. I expected nothing less, but yet still is amazing to have such an honoree on the call. So awesome. So let's move into the conversation. What are the steps now? I know you're involved in a lot of everything that's involved with getting ready for bring students back to campus. If you guys are going to do that, how hectic has that been since spring break? Because my son is still home, and that whole don't go back. And where are you with that and students coming back to campus?
No, that's a great question. It's a challenging time for parents and students, right? Whether you're the student athlete or the student scholar or both, and there have been a lot of disruptions, right, along that path. What our job has been is to make sure that we continue to focus on health and safety first. And so with that in mind, we are offering students a hybrid approach to learning for the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could look like a student who says, I want 100% online classes and I'm gonna remain at home. Or a student who says, I want a mix. So we are offering some in-person classes with less dense population, right? Appropriate measures of social and physical distancing. We are allowing students to come back to the residence halls, right? And so we're putting in additional guardrails there, but that student really can learn on demand, right? So if he or she wants to be on campus, but take 100% online, that option is available. So we're preparing for students to come back as early as August 6th.
Oh wow! Like in about an hour, they coming back.
Exactly. I gotta go and check some students into the dorm right now.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
that being, what advice would you give parents of other students going back to any college, any university? What kind of tips and
Yeah.
tricks are you sharing with your family?
So I would say, one, lead with empathy, right? And I think that's the message I share with my team. I share across the institution is we've got to understand that the challenges of today are challenges that none of us have faced, right? And so it starts with empathy, understanding, what are the concerns of your student, what are the concerns of family, and having those conversations. And then being nimble, right?
Mm.
Today's plan is today's plan, right? But what we've seen with this virus, what we've seen with a lot that's happening in our world is that it may change tomorrow. And so our processes, our communication style, our approaches to interacting with students, they have to be flexible. We have stood up digital Twitter, hit me in the DM and I'll answer your question sessions, right, with our student affairs team, because students are there, right? We've automated a lot of our phone systems to give text responses. If you didn't reach me on my cell, then I'm going to send you a text back and tell you, here's a link. These are the times I'm available. Book it when you're available as well. And so we've got to be fluid, right? And this really for our students, particularly those who are ready to enter the field of corporate America or work, companies are having to pivot too, right? And so our students need to be just as prepared to succeed in an online environment as they would in a brick and mortar. And so as an academic institution, we're always taking an opportunity to teach and learn.
Well, you know what, bro? That's a unique approach. And you said something that's quite pointed to what the post-secondary education experience is supposed to be about, is preparation to go out into the workforce. So now you're all teaching students to prepare by pivot or what's coming down. I like your philosophy, today's plan, and be ready, because a lot of people don't have that ability to go short-term in the midst of going long-term at the same time. So that's great. Now, what type of hurdles is Grambling State University facing, as well as maybe some of your cohorts at other HBCUs, as far as what we're getting ready to go back? Enrollment up, down, flat? What's going on?
So, we won't see that in reality until probably September, right?
Okay.
Our registrations process extends there. Our indicators today are all positive. So those indicators being student commitments for on-campus living. We're at 100% capacity already. And so those are strong indicators that we will continue to have a pretty healthy enrollment. But again, we'll see what that looks like after September. The hurdles that face us certainly are those that didn't just happen because of COVID, right? And whether that's funding shortages compared to peers, right? Investment in infrastructure priorities that may not have gotten to the table of the HBCU, right, as hot and ready as it got to another table. And so we're still going through those both systemic, right, instances of comparison with peers, but where we are focused on is how do we leverage this moment for greater opportunity. And so I don't think any HBCU leader today would tell you that we're resting on our laurels, right? Or that we are not being even more engaged for our institutions. And so we're doing that in the halls of Congress. We're doing that in the boardrooms of schools, districts across this country, and Grambling's no different.
Yeah, that's good. And dare I say, probably even more agile, maybe the HBCUs and a lot of the quote blue bloods that we're about to talk about in a minute.
Sure.
So let's move forward. Let's move into the world of sports. And when the original question to you was about a possible shift of power, if you will, top tier recruited athletes making decisions to go to HBCUs or even considering HBCUs heavily over your traditionals, specifically basketball at this point. McCord Maker, as you know, decided he's going to commit and go to Howard, which, shook the whole HBCU world up, and everybody's like excited. But I want to ask the question, what would that mean for Grambling State University if a high-level basketball-style athlete comes to your university? What would that look like, mean to you all?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with our legacy, right? And so Grambling is a phenomenal brand in athletics, right? We talked about the lineage a little bit earlier in the opening about Eddie Robinson and Doug Williams. What that connection of what is possible in HBCU has been proven. You think about young people like Shaquilla Hill, Grambling basketball, women's basketball player, only person in NC2A with a quadruple double, right? She got 2 in 1 year. And so you think about the talent that's already there, and you match that with a new wave or interest, right, of blue chip athletes coming out of high school that are interested in our collegiate experience. It's a new door. It's a new window. What does that do for us? It brings greater awareness to the athletic tradition, but it's the front door to the academic experience. And so how do we create something where, yes, Devontae Kincaid, one of our former football players, transferred from Ole Miss and was a phenomenal quarterback for Grambling, was able to win a national HBCU championship. And so there are a lot of opportunities with this conversation. And I think any AD at an HBCU definitely sees that as an investment, yes, in athletics, but the return is going to be so much greater for the overall institution.
Yeah, I agree fully with that. One of the conversations I had with another brother who runs a major AAU program in the area, and we got on the discussion of what success will look like for this blue chipper, high-level top 10 recruit, right? Whatever they may be. Coming to a HBCU, let's say Grambling State University.
Yep.
They coming in, they go into blue bloods one and done, right? That's the they don't expect to go past, they may not even go to class. So now they're going to come to HBCU. Does the expectation, if they came there, would it be different on them? They're going to be a draft pick or whatever? Or would you just, I want to follow up with something else. I want to hear what you have to say because I have a thought on this.
Sure. So we always preach the gospel, right, of you're a student before you're an athlete. And that expectation is across the board. What I appreciate as an HBCU alum, right, as an administrator now is really the challenge of our experience, right? We are going to push our students in ways that we uniquely feel qualified to do. We're going to immerse them in what it means to navigate as a person of color in this world, in this academic institution. And the diversity of thought and experience, right, is not lost upon HBCU students and graduates. We just are strengthened at our core. And I believe that students who leave an HBCU, black, white, right, whatever the race you may be, leave with a deeper understanding of the Black experience and how that's important for society.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. And in our conversation, what my fear was is that if the top tier athlete comes to an HBCU, they're already talking about draft pick and position. We already know they ain't staying past the time they need to stay. With football, right. I feel like if they go to HBCU, we as a people go, well, you got to get the education because you got to finish them 4 years before you be successful. Anywhere else is like, bro, just go ahead and stay eligible, don't get hurt, and go get that number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Would that be different at the HBCU in our community? Because
Sure.
we embrace that in education. We know it's important, you
Right.
know. And so, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, my thought on that is our expectation probably would be a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not different in the sense that we would want to limit or cut off a student's opportunity, right, to be in the NBA, for example. That's a phenomenal opportunity, and you've got to calculate what that means for you. But we would never close the door to them completing the journey that they started with
Mm-hmm.
us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you take top tier athletes, right, like Shaquille O'Neal, who ultimately went back and finished school, and then now is a doctor, right? And
Right, right.
so an educational journey is very important. Where the connection gets to be very relevant is that the experience, whether it's a year or 4 years or 5 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
that you have in an HBCU would be so tied to your DNA that we wouldn't have to, encourage you to complete. You'd want to complete. And
Mm-hmm.
part of what we're experiencing now is that HBCUs, we have to diversify how we deliver education. And so that online engagement is important. It didn't stop just because of COVID. Grambling, we're building out what Grambling Global looks like. So that
Sure.
when you're in Virginia or Hawaii, you can access this educational experience and get that same G on your chest that someone who comes to campus receives. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I think our empathy and our love and compassion would be at a high level, right? But we're focused on the individual and what's the individual path that works for them.
And that is a commendable. I love it. I did have the HBCU experience, Division II, PWI, White School, Huntsville, Alabama, War
Yeah,
Chargers.
yeah,
Still small school situation, but I get what you're saying. And I would hope that whatever athlete came to the campus would come and make those improvements and connections and articulate through the school and go get their
right.
dollars, right? If preferably, if you could do both, I say you could do both.
Do
But
both.
what is now the challenge, the known, I'm gonna call them short handicap out against going against Auburn or Kentucky, facilities versus access
Yeah,
versus meal tape. That's you don't have the setup to go do that. So
yeah,
how does it become more marketable or more of a thing that a student, because these kids are now saying, or when people are starting to emulate, they want to go and be trendsetters. They're not talking about who's got, two pairs of shoes versus a whole locker every year. They're talking about going back and supporting Black colleges and doing whatever, which is a great mind shift for our
yeah,
young Black kids. How do
it
you all,
is.
do you even try to compete? Or you just say, you choose us, you're going to win, but we're not going to overly pursue because we know we can't compete. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
On the recruiting side.
Right. So recruiting is important, right? As a fiscal officer for the institution, I'm often talking to the ADs and the coaches about we need more money, right? So we need more money. We need more investment in facilities, and all of that is relevant, and it is very true. We have to be better stewards of our own resources.
Mm.
That starts with campaigns to increase alumni giving. At Grambling, that's gone up over 10% in the last 4 years. And so that's allowed us to do more and reinvest. Then we've got to focus on public and private partnerships, right? Corporations at this point in time are finding opportunities, whether it's Netflix gift that they
Sure.
did NCF and Spelman and Morehouse, et cetera. There are more pockets of that type of investment that we have to go after, right? So that the playing field becomes a little more even in our competition. And so, yes, will we have some opportunities on their scorecard where we don't meet that expectation that they may have of another school? The reality is that is true. But what is the net sum that you want from this experience, right? And so I also would challenge those marquee athletes to be a part of creating what the future needs to look like, right? And so you think about Mr. Williams, who should make his announcement in a little bit, right?
Sure, right.
Narrowing down his choices. What does that impact look that says, if I go here, then I also want this type of corporate support, right? Or community support, right? And so what does that do for earned media that a school like Grambling, right, would receive just by the headlines of that? And so there are a lot of ways where young people who are talented in athletics have a lot of power, and how do they leverage that power for the greater good. And I think they're starting to see that more with their interest in HBCUs.
Yeah, and I agree. I think hopefully the council around these young athletes, provides them to look at these and get past all the hype and the glitz. Right? It is what it is. You're a number over there, and we won't even get to that conversation because we know there's a stark difference in care. I'm gonna just say it like that, between the two. And that is what the draw is for a lot of students to go back to an HBCU or to a smaller college. It is the care piece. You know what? We do care about you. We want to get these wins, these W's. However, and hopefully more people are putting that as a strong option. And again, these younger kids I'm watching and seeing seem to be trying to be woke and do something about it, and making statements like, I want to trailblaze, or I want to go back and do this and this and the other. Again, if you do it, awesome. If you choose not to, I'm still supporting you, because you know what? You have a right to choose to go play. But when you hear other HBCU coaches in the community say, look, bro, just pick up Black College. Just pick one. pick one. We the best, but pick one so we all can elevate everything, at the same time. And hopefully that'll be a not more just a hype or a bidding war, but a real trend to get that, and to get the power brains and students to make these choices as well. We talk about athletics, but we also know we're student athletes first. We want the power brains and the high dollar to go as well to get that experience as well. Again, I didn't have it. Doesn't mean it wasn't a great experience for me, but I see opportunities that weren't presented to me coming out of Cleveland, Ohio. There was not a presentation to go do that thing. I knew about Alabama A&M, grandma, auntie, all of them. People say, why didn't you go well, they didn't recruit me, number one. I wasn't good enough, I guess. I don't know. But I understood it. You know what I'm saying? So now, as a mentor person, we kind of guide people, look at these options to say, hey, look, these are valid, great education, great opportunities, great community, jealous of the afterlife of college, that kind of thing, because that's what makes the experience, which is great.
It does.
Shifting a little bit, and I know you have to get back to what you're doing. How were you and your athletic program dealing with the COVID thing? I know the MEAC is canceled. Ivy League, of course, they pull out first. They're like, we ain't doing this. And everybody's making these funny adjustments. What is your university and the conference doing down there?
So great opportunity to talk about the work that we've done in the Southwestern Athletic Conference under the leadership of Dr. Charles McClellan, another good Kappa brother, who's the commissioner of the SWAC. And so we have had a lot of good news in the SWAC. Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman are joining our conference in 2021. And so the SWAC is really building what is the next chapter, in collegiate athletics. We have at this time decided, the Council of Presidents voted recently to postpone until the spring. Okay. They are still going through that conversation about dates and competitions and what that will look like. But we are engaged with our student athletes, We anticipate that they will be on campus in the fall. Some may do just all the way online, but ensuring that their progress towards degree, is still moving in the right direction, that they're actively engaged with their teammates as well as their coaches, so that connectivity isn't lost, That mental stamina, as well as the camaraderie that comes along with collegiate athletics. And we're sensitive, We know for a lot of our seniors what this means, particularly those in spring sports, and those who've opted out for another year or opted in rather for another year of eligibility. And so there are a lot of decisions, and it's really at this point in time where our athletic staff, our student affairs team, they are the stars of the university enterprise, Because they are keeping our students engaged and keeping them motivated.
Nice. That is and it is kind of a sad thing, but again, it's what's necessary, and this just get another stark difference outside of looking in between the HBCUs and the power conferences. They are scrambling. Yes. Dollars are quickly not adding up. They're not adding up because they're driving their major part of revenue, as we know, is a billion-dollar industry. Not saying that you aren't, but again, your focus is different. That if it doesn't happen, it'll be okay. They're like, if it doesn't happen, God, we're gonna pull the plug. So,
Right.
and unfortunately for that, it puts our young athletes, all of them black, white, and indifferent, into a position of compromise for
Mm-hmm.
dollars. And that is a problem. That is going to continue to be a problem as people start making decisions. But I'm glad to hear that the Grambling State University is always going to do the right thing, as most of the HBCUs will probably do, to protect the student first. To your original statement about the care of,
Yes,
and
sir.
that aligns with what you said earlier. So I appreciate that piece. All right,
Absolutely.
cool. All right, Brother Lemelle, I'm gonna let you get out. Is there anything last you want to say to your alums and people out there? Give a shout out before we wrap this thing down.
Yeah. Thanks again, brother, for having me on and for lending your voice to these relevant conversations, right, that are for the times that we face right now. For those who are interested in keeping up with Grambling State University and all the great progress that we have going on at the institution, we're on the web at gram.edu and then on all social platforms at Grambling 1901. So we look forward to connecting with you all, right, digitally right now. When the time is appropriate and things are different, would love to have your listeners and people who are connected to you take a closer look at Grambling State University and visit us here in North Louisiana.
Absolutely, and I appreciate it. Next time you all both back in the DC area, you know where to find me, and
Yeah.
we can connect. And we're definitely going to share this with our Capital Leaguers here in the area, at our chapter anyway, to hear this conversation as we continue to make that push, as we know how we are. So
Yes,
again, thank you for that, and thank you all for tuning in. Again, as you know, remember this: if you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.